Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. I'm Enfuego here, and I welcome you once more to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment, for another Rapido Fuego review. And this is for a movie that you probably saw a trailer for in a theater, back when theaters were actually open. Who the hell knows when that will happen anytime soon. And even when it does, that's a whole nother can of worms to open, because I've been thinking about putting together a video about why I have no interest in returning to theaters anytime in the near future, even when they do reopen. But this is a movie that I thought the trailer looked cute, and after a weekend of watching a couple stuff that was dumped on the VOD, one of which being the Scoob movie on HBO Max, and then I watched the Eurovision Song Contest crap, which was my Sugar Day review this past Saturday. I also watched My Spy, which was rescheduled a few times for its theatrical release, ended up just being dumped onto Amazon Prime. And you know what? You don't go in expecting Shakespearean theater, as I all too often say, or anything of that silly nature. If you go in just expecting a charming little movie, comedy, a little bit of romance, a little bit of action, and a terrific performance and chemistry between this very young 11-year-old actress named Chloe Coleman and Dave Bautista, I think you'll dig this movie. My Spy was directed by Peter Siegel, who actually has a pretty decent comedic pedigree as far as his directorial duties go. He's a Swiss director, but he started out with Naked Gun 33 and the Third, The Final Insult, and Rest Peacefully, obviously, to the just genius of, the entire Naked Gun series, but really everything that was done by, oh goodness, why is Leslie Nielsen, homeboy's name was eluding me. I was thinking Lloyd Bridges, and I'm like, nope, Lloyd Bridges was Hot Shots. But yeah, so he started out with that third Naked Gun film, but then he also did Tommy Boy. He did a couple Adam Sandler movies. He did, the anger management one with Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler. Not a personal favorite, but then a charmer like 50 First Dates. And he even did the Get Smart remake that I did not think was that bad. I actually had fun with Get Smart. So none of these movies that he did are like comedy classics, but they are solid entertainment. And if you go in saying, okay, this is a director who knew what he was trying to make, and there's no illusions about it, and you've got a terrific pairing in Coleman and Bautista, yeah, I enjoyed this. It was the best thing I watched this past weekend, surprisingly, and I was thinking it was going to be absolute garbage with just the fact that it got dumped on the VODs, the streaming service, but I mean, what else can we do at this particular point? So, bottom line, besides Bautista and the aforementioned Coleman, you actually have a couple other great comedic bit players like Ken Jeong. You've got the actress who played Mel on the Flight of the Conchords. So, I mean, you've got some familiar faces and a good supporting team as well. Bautista basically plays this guy who hasn't always played by the rules. Yes, this movie is going to employ its fair share of tropes, and so he's under some disciplinary action after a mission doesn't exactly go quite as smoothly as it should have, and he's on leave of sorts. And he's at this particular apartment after being kind of reinstated to a degree, where him and the aforementioned Mel from Flight of the Conchords are doing some surveillance on this woman and her daughter, because the mother, her brother, had some ties with stuff that was going on overseas, and so that's why they relocated to the States. And quickly, the very perceptive and very sharp little 11-year-old girl, she kind of figures out a little bit of what Bautista is doing, and as you see in the trailer, she proceeds to blackmail him into being like, yo, I actually have always wanted to, since I was a really, really little girl, wanted to try to get into, that sort of criminal work and espionage and, things of that nature, so let me soak up, some of your knowledge like a sponge, man. And he's like, nope, ain't happening. And she's like, oh, well, check it. I'll blow your cover if I'll tell my mom what's going on and just make your situation a lot more difficult to deal with. And really, that's the only stuff you need to know going into this movie, because the best thing is their scenes together, and they're very sweet, this kind of father-daughter sort of thing that's going down. And don't expect any memorable action or anything like that. The action is very minimal in this, and yet even when it does happen, especially like early in the movie, Bautista has done some great work in that realm. He continues to charm me as an actor. He was very just stilted a little bit initially, which was deliberate with that character Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy, which is probably his most memorable early performance, but even stuff like Stuber with him and Camille Nanjiani that came out last year that I really enjoyed. This guy has grown as an actor as far as actually being able to show heart, to show more diverse comedic timing, as opposed to like the very deadpan, very just kind of dull, unaware thick-headedness of the Drax character, which I thought he was even better in the second Guardians film. And so he is improving, and he is really putting himself close to the likes of Cena, who I really don't particularly like, but really, I mean, The Rock is the epitome, and we all love Hulk Hogan, and yes, Suburban Commando, Mr. Mom, no holds barred, stuff like that. Hogan, for what he was worth, he was a fun actor, you know, coming from wrestling and everything, but, you know, The Rock has really, he's become king of that proverbial hill, top of the mountain, so to speak, and yet Bautista is leapfrogging others, and I dig it. I'm impressed by it, and he's great in this movie, as is Coleman, who I think she just has a little bit of like Disney Channel work or something. I didn't extensively look at her IMDb or anything of that nature, but I mean, and Ken Jeong, he's not in a ton of it, but I mean, Community, various other, you know, just more bit roles and more supporting stuff, as I said. But yeah, man, I mean, there is a little bit of a romance that starts with Coleman's mother, and that's where the movie still, it doesn't get as cheese as you might have necessarily expected, because you know, Bautista and the mother even have a little bit of chemistry. So it's not like an immense amount of laughs. It's just a movie that it's not as devoid of any sort of feeling as I thought it was going to have. It has some legit heart, and I liked it. And for that reason, I'm actually going to drop a 3 out of 5 on this one. That, yeah, it's a bueno film. It's an enjoyable, and especially as we continue trying to find more stuff in our throngs of streaming services right now, between Apple TV, HBO Max, some of the newer players on the scene, and obviously the biggies like, you know, Prime and Netflix and Hulu and whatnot. I still love my Shudder. If they weren't falsely charging people for annual subscriptions and craziness like that, that's apparently a thing, everybody. Keep that in mind. But yeah, just safeguard your information. You know, there's probably the hackers are at home more now so than even before. Let's say you were a part-time dude doing that, and now you're just trying to do it as much as you can at home, whatever. It's silly. But yeah, I mean, when there's so much to watch, the point that I'm getting to is that, yeah, I mean, My Spy was a pleasant surprise, and I quite enjoyed it. So I've been having Fuego. Y'all can find more on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on the YouTubies. My personal YouTube channel here has a little over 1,000, so a like, a share, and a subscribe really means a lot. Compared to my other channel, youtube.com/The Horror Show channel, as you see there, where I cover spooktacular stuff and, you know, trailer reactions, reviews of films, books, television, comics, video game Let's Plays. I have my weekly Stephen King show there. So yeah, there's tons of stuff over on The Horror Show to check out, but there is a nice growing, just you know, bevy of content here, and it's where I primarily cover everything that's not scary. So yeah, comedies, art house dramas. I geek out with my Star Wars. I do a lot of different stuff here. So if you made it this far in the video, it means a hell of a lot. You are appreciated, to quote Pac. And yeah, everybody, until the reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, Cinemigos constant readers and viewers alike, say thank you for spending a little time with me here today. But I'm hopeful we share more of this film palaver sooner rather than later. And until then, stay home. Watch more movies, and yeah, if you got that Prime, check out My Spy. It's free.